welcome to the show, everyone. I'm going to get right into it after that debacle that was my iPad. Welcome to the show. I'm Angela Montoya, author of Sinner's Isle, that comes out October 31st, 2023, through Joy Revolution. And I am here joined at the breasts with Melanie Schubert. I don't know. I apologize.
And the winner of the introduction awards.
Yeah.
Angela.
Thank you. You're everyone's favorite host.
Yes.
Angela Montoya, not Melanie Schubert. Thank you very much. There was a secret poll you didn't hear about.
You cheated by lobbying for extra votes. I didn't know it was an official lobby event. I saw your stories after. You were like, please vote for me. I was like, well, fuck.
Not how I sounded. That is not how I sounded at all. Okay.
I'm getting better at my American accent.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a little whiny, if I'm honest, Melanie.
Well, I mean, no, it does. Yours isn't whiny, but I've heard some.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I agree. I agree with that statement. Well, welcome, Melanie. How are you today?
I'm very good. And as per usual, just full of good energy after our amazing guest, Nicola Yoon, your publisher, your glorious publisher. And honestly, I shouldn't be surprised at all because, like, yeah, then the name says it all. Joy Revolution, doesn't it? And she's so full of joy and wisdom. It was such an honor to have her on.
Yes, I know. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack right before we logged on.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this is it. I can't go on. But we made it. And I mean, Nicola's so amazing that you kind of just forget you're doing a podcast as soon as you start talking to her, because she's just so, like, such a pro and has such a wealth of knowledge to offer. Just about everything. And so my heart is okay. She is healed.
You hit it well. I didn't notice you were nervous. I was nervous too this time. I think because it was just like, it felt like a big guest for us.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. We have just a rock star and, you know, a publisher, and yeah, it felt good. And she just had so many amazing things to say. So yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, just like writing and life in general. I feel like I could just listen to her advice I could just listen to her speak for hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But how are you?
I'm good. Wait, didn't I ask you how you were?
Yes, and then I got distracted.
Yes, you sure did. So let's go back to you.
How are you? Back to me. Yeah, I'm good. You know, like, I feel like the last few weeks, I just like could not quite, honestly, I just, you know, when you hit those slumps, and honestly, I would just like, before I would just get up and then just be on fire to write. You know what I mean? Like when you're excited about something, and that's kind of like usually how I write. I just haven't been feeling like that lately. I was really struggling, even though I would like kind of try get myself excited. And it's not that I'm not excited about the project. It was just like what I think is a natural slump. Yeah, you can't ride the roller coaster up the whole time, you know. But it's kind of scary when you feel like that, because you're like, am I losing like my creativity? Am I losing my passion for this? But like, as I've said the last few episodes, I've just really been trying to just give myself space and just like take the time off, even though, and that's why I wanted to mention it, because I was just like, you know, like in the past, that feeling has like destroyed me, and like I would spend weeks and months being like, am I in the right, am I still passionate about it? I'd like have a crisis about it. But I think I've done that enough times that this time when it came, I was like, it's just a lull. So every time those intrusive voices would come and be like, try to spiral me, I was just like, yeah, but like history shows you that it's probably going to pass. And it did. I woke up yesterday and I was just like, I had that, like, only writers know, that like almost suffocating feeling of like, if I don't get words on a page, I'm going to explode, you know? And I missed it so much. Like, I miss that feeling. I love the rush of just like being in that passionate space. But like, as we talked with Nicola, you can still write in the other space, and I still do. It just doesn't like build its own momentum. You'll do a spurt and then you're like, ugh, something else. You'll do a spurt and you know what I mean? Like you have these little spurts where you push through, but you don't have that natural burning fire. And I so love it. So it's so nice to feel like that's coming back in waves now. And that, yeah, that I gave my brain and body the kind of rest from pushing. And so it's come back on its own. So it's just been so like, I love that space. And it just reminds me why I do this, why I love it so much. The ups, the downs, and everything in between, as our catchphrase goes. Like, because it is that. There's so much like, oh my gosh, like querying is just like, it's a hate. And like, I'm sure submission's the same. Like, it's just a hateful space that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy, because there's just like so much uncertainty. Yeah. You have to like prepare for like anything could happen. And when shit happens, it freaking happens fast, intense, a bunch of shit. But like the in-between spaces where you're just like waiting to hear back for a few months, waiting to, you know, there's a lot of waiting in writing, you know? But so, I don't know. I feel good this week. I feel like this natural excitement and fire that I love about this industry is just filling me up again. And I'm just filled with like, I don't know, sounds a bit wanky, but like, I'm just like, was walking down the street today and I was like, I'm just so grateful to be here doing this and like surrounded by people I love, doing what I love. And I don't know, so it just felt all wanky and gratuitous today.
I love that. I love that, the gratitude too. And you've got the fire down under. I think that's just burning hot.
And not in the chlamydia way.
Yes, in the healthy sort of way. The fire down under is burning bright. That's the
burning bush.
Yeah, you've got the burning bush of inspiration.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna asphyxiate. Hang on. I'm laughing so hard I can't breathe. Okay, sorry. Continue.
No, I apologize for going there.
No.
You just shared something very sweet, and I had to go there. Couldn't help myself.
You can go there with my burning bush anytime.
It's the burning bush of inspiration, folks, and Melanie has got it.
Yes, it's true though.
No, I love that. And I love those moments where you feel so grateful. Those are just like the sweetest moments in life. You know what I mean?
No,
it's like
you're so right.
You go through all the motions and you're like struggling through writing or whatever. And to have those moments where you're just like, you know what? This is still beautiful at the end of the day. I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's it right there. Because like there are those heavy moments where like, I don't know, it's like one thought catches on to another and it just spirals you, and I think maybe we're, as like creatives, like we all are like that. We build the whole story. Yeah. So when you get that negative thought or that worry, you build the whole story that comes with that, I think. And that's where the spiral can happen. But like, I'm learning to catch that and be like, just because I had one emo thought, that's not even true. I don't always have to follow the rabbit hole and see where that goes, because when I ground myself in the moment and when I just kind of focus on what I'm doing, like most of the time, like I'm kind of in awe of what of like where I am, that I even dared to take this path, you know? And that, yeah, that's how I'm feeling this week. Just like grateful, which it is a nice surprise when there's like, it's not like I have any particularly big news to share or anything, but it's just like a moment of like quiet gratitude, and it does feel really nice. So yeah.
Yes. Yay. What, and something that you said of, we build these stories in our head. I think that's kind of like why we are such good, why we are writers, because we naturally
Yeah.
build all of these stories in our head. And so it's like a blessing and a curse of like, I'm building either the negative, or I can focus in on, let me just, shift that into story. And I can use this brain of mine that constantly wants to work, and put her to use, like put her into something good, which is
Yeah.
crafting a new book, or a new idea, or exploring something positive. And so, catching that downward spiral and like focusing it in on something good, I think is
Yeah.
so nice. But I think writers, we're just naturally, our brains just want to do something. And that brain is just going to go for the bad because it's easier, I think, a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. And I spent like the first half of my life going the other way, you know, like when I was younger, I would always follow the negative spiral. And I remember this sense of like looking at people who were happy and being like, that's another world that I'll never know. Like when you're like
Mm,
a little emo kid, you kind of like hold on to it because it is easier, and it's weirdly comfortable to never test yourself, to never chase any of your dreams. And I remember like I was the biggest talker. I'd talk about a lot of stuff that I wanted to do, and I never did any of it. And one day I just realized I didn't particularly like myself. Like
mm.
in my early 20s, I was like, wow, like a lot of what I feel, like just random therapy moment. We're going deep suddenly. But no, like it was that. It was like this like small realization that just as I built up the negative narrative, I could build up the positive narrative in myself.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean for sure that either will come true, but isn't it a more wonderful, joyful way to live when you like hope for the best? And like I find it attracts good energy as well, living like that, you know, like that, the whole energy of attraction, like you attract what you are, not what you want. You know what I mean? You have to become what you want to find that energy. And yeah, it's always a work in progress. Like I think at heart I'm naturally an emo kid, but it is nice to be able to like, I think it's cognitive behavioral therapy, right? It's you can retrain your brain like literally to kind of follow other pathways. So it's, yeah, it's nice when you see that it's doing some of those things.
She's doing what she needs to do. But I mean, honestly, it's like you think about how you talk to yourself. Would you ever really talk to your friends that way? Absolutely not. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? You would never talk down to your friends. If anything, you're there like, bitch, yes,
Yeah.
do it. Whatever you can, the sky is the limit. And even that, it's not the limit.
Mm,
I just wish sometimes I could reverse that and talk to myself that way. And I have been really working on that, like the
yeah.
affirmations, and just, you know, being kind to yourself, even when you're having that emo day.
Mm,
And and a lot of the times when I'm really, really down, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what time of month is it? Where am I in my cycle? I think it's
mhm.
just like natural. It's just being, having this body, and
Yeah.
and understanding the waves that we go through, and being okay in those waves, having
Mm,
our poos, but not letting our brain spiral into that negative self-talk, because it's easy
yeah.
to.
Yeah. That's very smart. And like that, it's like one of the like not easy, but it's one of the earliest ways I remember trying to like do self-love, like what to think about how I would talk to my friends. Because you're right, like we're weirdly brought up to think it's like self-indulgent to look after ourselves. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but yeah, you're almost brought up to like kind of lose yourself in helping everyone else. But yeah, like that's I remember when I did this mindfulness course, and like they were like, think of people that when you think of them, your heart feels warm. You know, like your partner, your kids, somebody who you want to protect, who you love, and feel that feeling that you feel for them that fills you. And then now think of yourself and turn that flow onto yourself. I really loved
Oh,
that. It like helped me like
yeah.
consciously be like, no, I deserve that too. You know, other people see me that way too. And like the relationship we have with ourselves is the most important one at the end of the day, because you're in your own body, you know, and it's the hardest one. It's the most rewarding one. And I mean, we have to write about it because you're right. We do have just like so many thoughts.
Yes, we really, really do. And I've noticed what I've been doing lately is because I don't like sleeping where I don't like it quiet when I sleep. And it drives everybody in my household absolutely bonkers. But if it's quiet, then my brain goes. She won't
Mm,
stop. And so if I have the noise, if I have a TV on,
yeah.
I can focus in on something else.
Yeah.
But like literally no one in my house wants to sleep with me. And
Oh.
which is but I've been trying really hard because they're all very quiet sleepers. My partner, he'll have a fan on, but that's like
Yeah.
max. And so a lot of times I'll sneak like my phone and and I'll put
Yeah.
like earbuds in and I'll watch a show until I go to bed. But I've been really trying to sit in the quiet. And
Mm,
so when my brain does want to go to all these like ridiculous things, like
yeah.
embarrassing things I did when I was 10 years old, like all
Mhm.
of these moments where I'm like, why did I say that? I have a lot of those moments. And so, like
Same.
every social interaction, I'm like, oh, why did I say that to them? I was trying to be funny, but it was awkward. Ah, dang. Um,
We're the
so,
same person. We are the same. I literally like any human interaction, even if it's
ah,
fleeting, I'll be like, oh, that was such a wanky smile. Oh, like, why did I made too much eye contact? Or like, I thought I was being funny, but it probably just sounded like a loser. Every
ah,
time.
every time, I want to always like lead with funny to just fill the space.
Yeah, yeah.
But my face doesn't always come off as like I'm telling a joke. My face looks
Mhm.
serious. And so I will say something thinking I'm hilarious. And then they're like, this girl's a bitch. And I'm like, oh crap. I'm sorry. I was cursed with this face. I don't mean it. But
I'm laughing because I'm just feel so seen right now. Because I feel that too. I feel like I've literally had to train my face to like I've looked in the mirror to be like, am I expressing joy? Am I maybe it's because we grew up on TV. We feel like our faces need to do a certain thing to convey a certain feeling or something. But like,
probably.
yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense
no.
though that it would.
But yeah, so I've been trying to like shut off the TV
Yeah.
and sit in the quiet and go to sleep like a regular human. And so I just let my brain, instead of going to the embarrassing life stories, I just try and think of like my book or
Yeah.
plot points, and that puts me right to sleep.
That's genius. I've been using audiobooks because I tend to be the same. Like I don't sleep well in silence either. But I've been putting on audiobooks. But then that damn alien porn book got too interesting and it kept me up.
Did you finish yet?
I finished.
It's good though, right?
It's good. I downloaded book two.
Yes, you did.
Like, let
Yes,
me
you
tell you,
did.
the sexy parts were nice. But I just want to know what happens next with the next, because freaking, what's his name? Razgul or whatever has run off with one of the humans. We're talking about Ice Planet Barbarians, dear listener. I've downloaded
Oh,
books.
they know. The listeners
They know.
know. They know. Ice Planet Barbarians. Okay, so the second one, have you started it?
I just started it, yeah.
Okay, I will get it today and I will listen as well because
Yes,
I need it in my life. I'm
you
ready.
need it. And I feel like this one's going to be so much more like enemies to lovers because they're both really intense personalities.
Yes, the Quee will be thriving.
The queen is thrumming already.
A burning Quee down under.
Yeah, but what about you? How's your week been?
It's been good. I just feel like I just keep being busy with just life stuff. So
Mm.
I've just been like doing a little bit of writing here and there. Today I did a pretty good little chunk. I got like 1,000 or 2,000 words in.
Woo, good.
But I kind of feel the same way. It's like
Mhm.
not that I feel down about it, but I kind of feel like I don't know that I'm not sure where I'm going with it quite yet.
Mhm.
Um, so that's just kind of where I'm just kind of in the like exploratory
Yeah.
phase. Literally writing a scene and then having to stop and think about what comes next and why.
Mm,
Because I haven't outlined this. So I feel like maybe I need to stop and outline because I did the backstories and
mm.
those really helped. Um, but I think I need to outline because right now it's just like fun, like it's like, dark circus,
Mm.
bizarre vibes. So I'm just all vibes
Yeah.
and no plot. So I need to work on the plot.
Yes.
But yeah.
I probably need to stop and do a re-skeleton as well, because I was feeling that a bit as well. We're kind of in the middle part. And I'm just like, that might also be why the energy is low, because I feel like there's a rush of a new project. Yeah. There's like a high that comes starting a project, and there's a high that comes when you reach the end, or like coming in on the end. So maybe we were just like riding these highs of finishing our last projects, but it's also probably so natural to have the lulls. Like it just can't
Yeah.
be, especially because, like, speaking for us both now, but like that, especially because we feel that fire of writing so intensely, then there needs to be like the moments the fire has ebbed away. But like I
Yeah.
think it's always simmering away, which is why we keep going. But that's what I
Yeah.
kind of meant before. I think when you like exist, when you have the experience of writing in the fire and you know what that feels like, it's hard not to feel like these parts are wrong, or like
Mm.
something's not right with your career, or something's not right with your writing or whatever. But I honestly am starting to believe it's just natural. It's just normal. It's a part of the journey to be weathered and hold on and remember that you're going to come back to the fire again, And whatever you get done through this time, I'm trying the hardest to just cut myself grace in these periods, because we do work so hard on the other
Yeah.
side. Even though I
Yeah.
say the fire part's easy, but you and I both work fucking hard all the time at this, realistically. And so I
Yeah.
think when these times come, I just want to really consciously be gracious to myself and be like, bitch, you're working hard all the time. So you had a bad week. Maybe you're going to have a bad month. Is it even bad, or is it just part of the process? Is it just part
Yeah.
of our humanity, like the ups and downs and like, yeah.
And just learning and growing as a person and then
Yeah.
understanding how to write through all of that. I almost feel like I want to kind of stop and take like a writer's course or something. So I feel like we
Yes.
did that between projects, like did Story Genius or something like that. I feel like that always inspires me so much more to write. You know what I mean?
You just
So
gave me chills and thrills, because I didn't think of that. And now that you've said it, I think you're 100% right. I would be so on board to do something. Let's find a course. And yeah, because like I also always want to be learning. I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm just like, oh, I know what I'm doing now and whatever. But maybe that's
yeah,
it. Maybe we need like to do some kind of course or something that just like reshines part of the brain or ignites a different part of storytelling. And I find that, like, even though you do Save the Cat or Story Genius or whatever, and you're like, well, I understand storytelling now, but it's like so one thing, then you'll hear someone say something else and you're like, maybe I don't need Save the Cat. Maybe you can just pants your way into a good book. And I think it's like an amalgamation of all of that and just like whatever you need in the moment that makes your own personal journey and craft. Because we all pull what we need from each of those things,
And I always feel like after reading a book on craft or doing a course, so much more fired up because I've, got some tools in the belt now. You know what I mean? Like, inspiration has struck because I'm like, oh, you could do it this way. And the reason behind it is this, like unlocking the brain a little bit of story. So I think we might have to look into that.
All right.
How is your drawing course going, by the way?
I've done a bit, and then I kind of was like, I probably need to get like an iPad or something to draw, because drawing on paper is probably not going to be my
oh yeah
okay, we're going to get past stick figures. I'm still the jury's out, but I'm also like, what I realized when I first started doing it, and I was having so much fun, and then I kind of felt this panic that I wasn't any good, and I was like, that's all right, you'll learn. So I'm still, basically the way I'm approaching it is I'm open to learning and finishing the course and seeing how I feel after. But I'm also realizing this thing of like, not every new project I start has to be my new hobby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that I'm realizing is I tend to start a lot of projects, and I love that journey for me because it keeps life exciting. And sometimes you find it like the clay. Like, I've found a new hobby that I do and I enjoy and I can mess around with a bit. That's something I probably wouldn't stop doing ever. But the jury's still out on this one. Am I going to be a graphic novelist, or was it just a thing? I don't know yet. We'll see. I'm giving myself space for it to be either.
I love that.
Yeah.
And as long as you're having fun, I guess you really,
exactly.
Enjoying the ride.
Speaking of fun, we should probably read Nicola. No, we've got time. I'm going to try share the screen.
Okay. Let's see if she figured this out.
So when we had Maya on, it came to my attention that you have a special skill that I didn't know about, which is, I hear that you have a talent for doing audio enactments for the characters on covers of books.
I don't know. Apparently, I don't know. Okay, let's.
Is that not something you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I remember her saying that, and I'm sure I did do something at some point.
Well, we're going to test it out today, because I have trawled the internet's depths for a couple of covers for you, and I would like to see this gift of yours in action.
Oh, Lord.
So if I can work out how to share my screen. Okay.
Oh,
so gosh. How would you envision these two? Does it come up on your screen? Will the listeners see it?
No, I think so. I think people would be able to see this.
Cool.
So, okay, I'm seeing our time is dwindling down, but let me just say what I see firsthand off from this cover of Frankenstein. Do you notice her hand grasping his thigh? She is pissed.
Not only grasping, but where's that pinky going? Do you see the pinky?
We don't want to look too closely because you will be having nightmares the rest of your life. But she is grasping that thigh.
Yeah.
So I feel like he said something. Probably, I'm going to say he probably, just looking at him and his scowl, he might have said something very inappropriate. Like, I would say borderline, probably racist. He probably said something under his breath, and she is grasping him for dear life to get him to shut up. That's what I envision right here in this picture. What do you see, Melanie?
That got dark. I see his face as looking smug. He's just like, yeah, we did. And she's just like, I need you in the bedroom now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's because you just finished Ice Planet Barbarians. That's where your brain is at. I see where this has happened. Okay.
I thought you were going to give us voices like, hey, baby, why don't you meet me later in my crypt?
In my crypt. Well, I planned on it, but then my kids came in and they threw me all off, you know.
We'll do another one next time, but next time I want voices.
Okay, I'll be ready for you next time. I will have my voices ready. But let's introduce the special guest of the hour, Nicola Yoon, who, as I said earlier, I almost had a heart attack before we even joined on having her on, because I'm obviously such a fangirl and she just means so much to me. So, and my career, and just personally. So would you like me to
I think
read
you should.
her? Okay.
Yeah.
She has a really fun bio. She has the official version and the unofficial version. So I'm going to post both on our Instagram because her unofficial is perfection.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have time for that at the moment. So let me read Nicola Yoon's official bio. Nicola Yoon is the #1 New York Times best-selling author of Instructions for Dancing, Everything, Everything, The Sun is Also a Star, and a co-author of Blackout. She is a National Book Award finalist, a Michael L. Printz Honor Book recipient, a Coretta Scott King New Talent Award winner, and the first Black woman to hit the #1 on New York Times New York Times Young Adult bestseller list. That is amazing. 2 of her novels have been made into major motion pictures. She's also the co-publisher of Joy Revolution, a Random House young adult imprint dedicated to love stories starring people of color. She grew up in Jamaica and Brooklyn and lives in Los Angeles with her husband, the novelist David Yoon, and their daughter.
Glorious.
She's just an all-around badass.
I agree. I want to speed read the unofficial one because I loved it so much. Do you want me to quickly read it?
Do it.
It's so sweet. The unofficial version of her bio. I believe in love, really, truly. I'm kind of a hopeless romantic. In a former life, I made jewelry. You can see some of it here. I love karaoke, but I cannot sing. I am the worst. My song choice is Making Love Out of Nothing at All by Air Supply because Air Supply. My husband makes custom notebooks. They're pretty popular. I handwrite my first drafts. I am, and always will be a late bloomer. In a former life, I was French. I could live entirely on wine and cheese, or maybe Korean because I could live on kimchi and galbi too. So sweet.
Yes. Yeah. She's just a special human being, and she exudes love and joy, and I can't wait for our listeners to hear what she had to say.
Yeah. Let's get her on. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good. So good to see you. We are so excited to have you on.
Hello. Hi, Angela.
Hi. Yeah, Melanie was asking. She was asking. Melanie, meet Nicola, the amazing. I mean, I'm sure you know everything about her. But no, Melanie was asking before we got on, have you ever Zoomed with Nicola before? And I said, actually, not to brag, but yes, I've met her.
Oh, yes, we have been on a Zoom call before, but also I don't think I've told you how much your TikToks crack me up.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. Honestly, whenever I see that you like something, I always get very embarrassed. Like, oh no.
So you are so funny, and you just go for it. It's fabulous. I love it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I sure do. Thank you. Yeah, I have fun on social media, and it's been one of those things I've been doing it just for fun for the last few years, and I've met so many amazing people through Instagram or TikTok, and so it's just been like a joy to be on social media. Not always, but
Twitter used to be like that back in like when I was debuting. That was kind of fun back then, and then it just was ruined. So I'm never on there anymore. But I met like my best publishing friends are Saba Tahir and Adam Silvera, and I met them both on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it used to be like a place. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you say, Melanie?
I met all my best writing community online, honestly. Like, it's
Yeah.
such a treasure to me. And I 100% agree. Angela's reels crack me up. And to be honest, though, it always grounds me as well and reminds me when it gets really noisy in the industry. It reminds me what I love about it so much. Like
Yeah.
the big hearts, the goofy hearts, the creative hearts.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We need reminding because sometimes it's crazy out there.
Yes, it's a lot, and it feels like it's been a lot even more recently. There's just so much happening,
Yeah.
in the industry and just in the world. So,
Yeah.
just we need a little laughter.
Yeah.
Well, enough about me. As much as I really appreciate this, let's get into more about you. I'm sure all our listeners are already experts and know everything about you. But before we even will, put this part on, Melanie and I will do like your bio and your formal introductions. But
Okay.
can you tell us a little bit about your writing journey? Did you always want to be a writer?
So like a few years ago, I found my old diary, and in it, I was like 8, and in it, I said, I want to be a writer when I grow up. And then, so I knew at one point, but then I like went to high school, and I was really good at math, and that was a problem because it led me down a dark path, right? Like math led me astray. I like took me to engineering in college. Um, and electrical engineering was my major, actually. It's an insane amount of math. And then my senior year, I went to Cornell, which is in upstate New York, where it's very cold. But one of the requirements at Cornell is that you must take a class outside of your major in your senior year. And so I took creative writing. And so that's how I came back to it in the first place. And at the time, I was like suffering from unrequited love with this boy who did not love me back, like even a little bit. It was terrible. It was terrible. And so I wrote everything. I wrote poetry about him. I wrote one-act plays. I wrote screenplays. I wrote short stories, all of them about this boy. And my professor, I remember very distinctly, she like had office hours, and she said, you have potential. You're very talented. And she's like, you're eventually going to get over this boy. And I was like, no. But then I did get over the boy, but I got sucked into writing. So that is my tale.
I love that so much. There's so many different parts I love. Math is such a, that's the first mathematician we've had on the show. It is a very polar opposite direction to be pulled. But I love that. I love that's part of your story. And it's so true when you're younger and you have these like burning crushes. You're like, I will never love again.
I was sure. I was certain this is, and like I can't even tell you his name. But I stuck around, so I mean that's good.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the way it should be. Who is he? We don't know. But at least he gave you the inspiration for something so amazing. Yes. Well, everything was like the first book you actually wrote?
No. It's the first one that was published, but not the first one I wrote. I have, and honestly, it's not like the book is terrible. Like I have a book that was an adult book that's like in the metaphorical drawer. That's like a complete book, but very short. And occasionally I look at it and I go, one day I'm going to go back to this. And I think I really will. I think the story is too big. I don't think I'm good enough a writer yet. So it's like one day I'm hoping 10 years from now, like I'll have all the chops and I can like put this thing together. So that's been sitting there. And then everything is the first one that got published. But the second book I ever wrote. But I went to graduate school for writing, so I wrote a lot. I've been rejected from every magazine in the world for my short stories before everything became a thing.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so kind of nice to hear you say that you're, that book is maybe down the line, that you're not quite there yet. As a new author, young, budding writers, to know that, the big dogs are still feeling like, I'll get there eventually. You know what I mean? It's very comforting. It's just know that we're always learning.
Yes, that's true. But also, no one has ever called me a big dog before. So that's I think that's very sweet. It's not true at all, but that's very sweet. But yeah, I mean, I think that's true, right? I mean, I think that the hope is that you're always learning, right, and like growing as an artist. I have an adult book coming out next year, and I absolutely could not have written that book 5 years ago, right? Like it's just one of those things where hopefully you're stretching yourself every time you write, put something down. But sometimes it's just not there yet, right? Like I needed to write those other books before I could write this one. And I think I'm gonna have to write like a couple more books before I can write the other one that I started when I was like 20, right? So who knows how it goes, but you do need to be like stretching yourself and learning. If it's easy, you're not, then what's the point, right? Like you're not doing it right, I don't think.
Yeah, that was good. I need to remind myself that every day, because I think that's the thing. When you reach a point when something starts to feel hard, that's kind of the opportunity for growth, right? Like I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's not really the moments when it's easy and when I'm on fire for writing that really define my staying in this. It's kind of when I reach those moments and I'm like, this, I don't want to do it anymore. I shouldn't do it anymore. But you do it anyway. You kind of just push through because you still have that fire that wants to be fed. And I think, yeah, it's so important.
Have you ever had a moment when you're writing, like you don't want to write this thing and don't want to write it, and then you write something and it ends up being one of your favorite parts of it?
Yes, 100%.
You're just stuck, you can't do it, and then you have to be just like, I had to put something, this book is due, or whatever. Yeah. Then it ends up being the thing that you stretched and you love now. So sometimes coming up against those walls is not bad for you.
Yeah, you gave me chills, because 100% exactly that. When I thought I'm just going to force a little bit out, it's probably going to be rubbish. But then I go back and I'm like, why do I love this so much? I wrote it when I was like thinking I shouldn't. Yeah, I love that. I got chills.
Those are the very best moments. And I feel like even when working with you guys on Sinner's Isle and pushing myself and stretching places I didn't think I could go. And then coming out with a product that you just are so proud of. And, you're just like, I thought it was so great before. But when I really forced myself to just get out of my head and let go and just write the damn thing, it turns into this beautiful, piece of your heart that's on the page. And writing is just one of those, it's just one of those things that's so special. And it really kind of changes you as a human as you do let go. And, we love
I feel like you learn so much about yourself too. Like, I mean, I don't know. When I write all the things I don't know. Like people always say, write what you know, but I actually always write with a question in my head. And then at the end, I don't necessarily have an answer to the question, but I've asked all the questions around it. Like I know what I think about it by the end, And Angela, like you're such a great person to work with, like writer-wise, because a lot of writers, you hold on too tight. I know this because I hold on too tight. But like your manuscript was fabulous when we got it. And then, we just want to make it better. And you like took like the notes so well and then like stretched yourself, like you like, because the best edit letters ask questions, right? And then you as the writer answer them in your own way. And like you did such a great job. I love your book. I mean, you know this because obviously we acquired it, but I love your book. I can't wait for it.
No, I think a lot of that honestly was I just trusted you guys and Bria so much. So when the questions came, I knew it was coming from a place of let's get this book as good as it can get. You know what I mean? So I think trusting who is behind you and letting go really does make all the difference. And a lot of it, like I have to say, like because we had just gotten out of pitch wars not long before I sold the book, like learning how to listen to people's critiques was was so valuable.
It's hard. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really hard. It's like, it's a gut punch, but it always, as soon as you kind of get over that initial, like, oh, my book is awful. Why did they get this book? But, but it's like, they got it because they understand and they just want to see it grow. And so I think that's just part of being a writer, is like taking the hits and learning.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but my editor asked, she just will send me pages of questions. And it's like the best thing, because I'm like, I don't know the answer to your question, Caitlin. I don't. I have no idea. And so then I have to figure it out, right, and put it in the book.
Yeah.
Yes. I heard someone once say that like writing is basically just problem solving. You're just asking the question and then just trying to solve that problem. And sometimes when you're blocked, it's because you just get tired of having to solve problems. And it really kind of released me when I heard that. I'm just like, okay, maybe I just need a break for the day. My brain is, I've been on editing mode and mom mode and all the modes, and I just need to watch like some RuPaul Drag Race or something, just let go.
I play video games. That's my stress relief. I'm just like, I need to go kill something, so I could do that.
Yes. What's your go-to?
Right now I'm playing Jedi Survivor on PlayStation 5, which I love. The first game was fabulous. The second one just came out, so that's what I'm doing. But I just turned my book in, so I'm on a break. I'm like a week break, not doing anything.
Yay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That sounds.
I love video. Like my son loves video games, and I just like to watch because a lot of the stories that they have woven through video games are so good.
Yeah, some of them are really.
Oh
What's the one that put on HBO? Last of Us.
Yes.
Yeah. My husband played that, and it was like, I could not watch it because it's too gory. But he said that it was amazing.
Really?
Oh, so good. It was so good. I told my son, you need to be a writer for a video game, and he just, he rolled his eyes. But maybe, who knows?
Maybe. Yeah, but whatever refills that well, like that's the thing. Everybody's got something different that refills it. And if it's shooting up some zombies, whatever fills the well. I'm glad. I was going to ask you, what's it been like working with Angela, but you went there already. But can you tell us like something you love about Sinner's Isle? Like what was something that just really drew you?
I think it's really hard to like hook a reader right away, and not like, first of all, people think that the first line is the be all end all, and it's not, right? It's really the first page that gets a person going. And you just have to be very specific. And I love how specific Angela's point of view is in the story, like, and the world of the story. So like you're like, oh, I have not read this before. Like, it's like a little tilt of your head. You go, oh, because we read a lot. Like books, right? And when I get like, I can tell right away. I'm just like, oh, I've never seen this. And then she doesn't let go. That's it. It's like step on the gas the whole way through. I'm just like, yes. And then it's like very big and feminist, and I went through this magic. I love how strong her heroines are. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard note to give when you're rejecting something, to say like the voice is not quite right, or it's just not there. But it's like one of those things where it when you feel it, when you see it. Like you just know, like it's a confidence in the author where you feel like you're in good hands, or they at least know where the story is going. And if they're not telling you quite yet, it's fine. They're going to take good care of you. And like sometimes when you read earlier things, certainly when people send us their first draft, which no one never send the first draft, right? Send the third, send the fourth, don't send the first, because we can tell. Like I can tell when my first drafts, because they're just not ready yet. But sometimes you get a first draft and you can tell that they're not really sure where the story is going. And then that, as a reader, just leaves you shaky, and it's not like pleasant, right? It's not a good feeling. You're just like, I don't know about this. So I think that's what it is, like very specific, very confident. And also, I need to know what happens. I was just like, oh, no, I need to know.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And even when she sends me early stuff, and she's like, it's terrible, I'm like, no, you're still holding my attention by the reins, and I have to know what happens next.
Yeah. I mean, I should also say, obviously, you're a terrific writer, Angela. I like said all this other stuff, and I didn't say like the basic. Oh, she's a really good writer.
Hey, I don't care. I'll take whatever you have to say. I'm just happy to hear it. I love that. Well, I think it's really great advice just in general too. I mean, just like good writerly advice to kind of hear what you had to say, what makes those kind of things stand out. And I know you guys must see so many projects. Now looking back when you queried, what was your experience like?
I had a little bit different experience, right? So I sold mine on a partial to Wendy Loja at Delacorte. And so I had been through like a bunch of rounds of revisions with it. And then I had the unique experience where it went to auction, right? So I had like a lot of like interest. I sold it. I got my first phone call when I landed in Hawaii. So we like sent it out on like a Thursday, and I was going to Hawaii with my family on a Friday. And we're on the plane, and like right before we like sitting on the tarmac, my then agent was like, I think people are interested. And I was like, okay, well, what's happening? There's like a preempt. I was like, oh, should I take it? I knew nothing about anything. And then by the time we landed in Hawaii, there were like several offers, I think 11 in the end on the table. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. So then I interviewed 6 people. And then when I interviewed Wendy Loja at Delacorte, I was like, oh yeah, you're a good person. So I had like an unusual sort of experience.
Yeah, must have been very hard to like decide when there was so many coming at you at once.
I mean, it was so exciting. It wasn't that hard, honestly, man, because you just end up talking to people, right? So like if you just like take it, like I just talked to the editors, and I was like, you get your gut, right? I was just like, oh yeah, no, I think you get it. Like I asked everyone, what would you change in the story? How do you feel about the ending? Because like I said, I sold it on a partial. So it was just like a gut. I was like, oh no, Wendy, I feel like gets it the most. So in the end, it's just like feel. Yeah, that's it. It was just totally 100% feelings.
No, I think that's the best way to be. That's like, it's very wise to like follow that energy, because ultimately like the offers or whatever is great. But like, if you have somebody that's like your people, right? That like your tribe that you want to work with, then that's everything. It makes the journey so much better.
Yeah. I mean, I think what happens, especially at the beginning, is that you think that you're only talking about one book, but you're not, right? You're trying to make a career, right? And it's not like some books will do well. Even the most storied careers have ups and downs, right? Some books do well, some books don't. And what you're trying to do is like cultivate a body of work and people who will support that body of work through the ups and downs. Life gets in the way. There was a 4-year span between my second and third book. My mom was very, very sick in between. And so you have to have people who are going to stick with you and believe in you. And, a lot of debut authors think everything's about the one book, but it's not. It's about the second and the third and the people who are going to support you at the fifth, even if your sales aren't great, but they know that you're a terrific writer and they know that it will come back around. So you're not just looking for like the big marketing budget for one book. You're looking for someone who's going to say, oh, I believe in you and your career. I want to stick with you. So that is like, when you think about it that way, then you really are just talking about people and people who you feel like, you can trust.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah, honestly. Well, and I even feel like that a little piece, honestly, when it comes to Sinner's Isle, like it's just my first book is what I keep telling myself. And I just want to get better with each book that I write, with each story that I have. And it's really brought me a lot of peace to know that, yes, this is my debut, but it's just just the first. And I can grow from here. And I love what you had to say about, finding the person that is going to support you all the way through your growth and good times and the bad.
Yeah, I mean, because there's going to be just like, I mean, some, obviously you need, the base thing is you have to have a good book, right? And then hopefully you've got like good champions and good marketing and la la la. But then sometimes the world goes haywire and there's a pandemic. Think about all the debut authors who had their books come out in the middle of a historic pandemic, right? I mean, you need people who are still going to say, it's okay, we know it trashed your sales, on to the next one. You know what I mean? So, like, there's some luck involved too, right? You can write the best book in the world, but if it came out in March 2020, probably very few people read it. And that's not your fault, right? That's just happy luck.
Yeah, that's rough for sure.
Yeah.
Did you have a harder time? Because you've got books, you have anthologies, you have amazing books. Was there one that was harder to write than the rest?
Yeah. My third book, Instructions to Dancing, was the hardest one for sure. And I wrote a book before it, which will never see the light of day. And that was when my mom was really sick. So after The Sun Is Also a Star, my mom had cancer, lymphoma, and it was a disaster just for a long, long time. And I was writing through it because, books are due and la la la. And I wrote a terrible book. It just had no hope in it, it was just dire. And you can write a dire book, but it has to modulate. There was no modulation. It was just sadness throughout. And so I had to set that one aside, which was painful because it was like, a year and a half later. And I was like, oh. And then I started Instructions to Dancing, and that was a lot of restarts on that to find like the voice and to find like a person who I could get through to a hopeful place. I fought really hard for that book. And I love it now, but my God, it was a pain in my sleep.
Yeah. I think when we're writing about those raw parts, like if it moves a reader on a page, I feel like usually on the other side, there was a writer crying or laughing or whatever the emotion is. Yeah. If it moved the reader, there's some like heart and guts on the page.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully when you read it, it feels, like the books that feel easy, you're like, oh, I'm just breezing through this effortless. Those are the ones, cause actual suffering. Like those poor authors are just like in hell.
Yes.
That sounds right.
Right? It's true.
Yeah, that feels right for sure. Just to make it look like it was a breeze, right?
I read your book in an hour and I'm like, shut up. 5 write that book.
Yeah, it's such a compliment, but like also like a fear factor of like, well, you read it in an hour. Now I've got to like produce another one.
Right. And they're like, when is the next one coming out? I'm like, give a girl a break, huh?
Yeah.
Give a girl a break. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I know from your bio, and I've heard you in interviews before, you have mentioned that you handwrite your first drafts. Now, are you a pantser or a plotter? Do you have an outline already ready going into that?
Yeah, I mean, I always have like a basic outline. So I do like traditional 3-act structure. And I know like the plot beats in each act. So it's very loose because if I write it all out, I won't write it because then I know what I think and I won't write the book. So I'll have like major plot beats down, and then it changes as I'm writing it because the character will be like, no, that's just not working or whatever. But that's what I do. I write by hand because I don't know how else to write except for by hand for that first draft. I used to write at 4 a.m. and I sometimes still do, but when I wrote everything, I still had a full-time job. And it was Wall Street job. So I had to get up really early because I went on the West Coast and Wall Street operates on the East Coast. So I would get up at 4 and I would write, and then I would go to work. And I would write by hand because I just felt it very freeing. There was no pressure. It's just paper. I can just write it down. No big deal. What's the worst that can happen? I rip the paper out. So my internal editor doesn't work with when it's by hand. It's just like, whatever, my intelligence is asleep, there's no pressure. And so I still do that. Like all the strange things that happen in the books or the weird associations, it's because I'm like basically exhausted and I'm writing by hand. So that's it works for me.
That's so cool. Well, it kind of brings you back to like being 8 years old and writing in your journal again. You know, it's just that
yeah. Like because we all used to, right, when we were younger, write by hand. I mean, I guess maybe not the littles now because they're all typing, but my little girl still writes by hand, mostly because we don't let her have a computer.
Yes. I am fascinated by this. My handwriting is atrocious, so I feel like it'd be very risky for me to try write a first draft by hand. I would be like, what does this page say? But no, there's like such a romance to that. And I can see how it would be liberating to be off screen and just to have this page in front of you. So it's like, it's such a beautiful picture to just the old school writing by hand.
Yeah, but it's not romantic. It's like literally I've tried to do it another way and I just cannot do it. So I just want to be clear. Like it's just like I'm an idiot and this is the only way I know how to get it done. So like I will write and then like every 3 days or so, then I'll just type that in. And it's like my first like little revision and then I'll do it again. I'll keep going and then I'll get to the end. And then I usually revise mostly on the computer. But if it's like a big revision, like, you know, if there's a lot of notes and I have to do new scenes, then I'll go back to the notebook and write by hand again. But my husband tries to get me to change, and I tried it once and it sucked. So I stopped.
Well, as your fans, we think it's romantic. Even if it's your own private hell.
I wish I didn't have to.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, I see one question because we were just mentioning romance and we were just imagining you just in your office, in your study, you know, with your quill and paper.
Well,
but my question is, what advice would you give to writers who wish to create compelling romances like yours?
I mean, I don't know. It's funny because like, you know, like especially a lot of YA books or even romances in general, like we talk a lot about like the physical traits of people, right? Like how attractive they are. And obviously, you know, that's important, right? Because it's partly wish fulfillment in romances, and also just because I think in general you have to be attracted to your romantic partner. But the thing that I do in the books and the thing that I love when I read a book is like when people fall in love with each other's brains. That's it, right? It's like when they're like all of my books are very talky. Like the characters talk to each other a lot, actually. Partly because I love writing dialogue, but partly because I believe you fall in love when you fall in love with like another person's idea of the world and way of looking at the world. That's how I fell in love with my husband. That's how we're still in love, because we talk all the time. Like we're just always like, oh my God, think about this. Oh my God, what do you think about this? Like that, you know? So for me, it's always about talking and then kissing. Obviously, it gets in there, right? But I don't know, like a good love makes your world bigger. It doesn't make it smaller. It makes you think, it opens you up, right? And I think that's what I try to do for my characters. It like changes their point of view, changes their perspective a little bit, teaches them something about themselves. And then the thing that I always say is that, you know, you have to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. And so hopefully when you're falling in love with a little bit of yourself too. You're like, oh, I'm pretty cool. Like I am worth a big love, right? Like love is transcendent and you're supposed to love yourself. And it's supposed to make you go, oh, this world is amazing, you know? So that's what I do. Which is not very practical advice, but it is how I write them.
I think it is. I think it's perfect. And I feel like Nicola Yoon, writer, publisher, relationship advisor, that was some fire right there. And I think it's so true. I feel like I said this last episode, but I was watching Jewish Matchmaker, and that's what one of the girls said. She was like, you know, you're ready to get married when you would marry yourself. Like there's got to be a love of self to know. Yeah. How good is that? when you love yourself and you know what you deserve, like that's how you can find a partner that you deserve. And like, no, I loved everything you said. We could talk about that for hours, but I have to train my ADHD brain back to the top, back to at hand, because speaking of romance, you with your husband are co-publishers of the imprint Joy Revolution. Can you tell our listeners what it is and how it came to be?
Yeah. So Joy Revolution, of which Angela is one of our authors, is a publishing imprint and Random House children's books, and it's dedicated to love stories starring people of color, written by people of color. Because when David and I met in graduate school, we were both romantic goobers, and all our favorite stories just had no POC in it. Right? They were just like, or they were always the sidekick, you know? It's like the sassy Latina or the sassy black girl or the lab tech, like, you know, the Asian lab tech or whatever. And never like the main character, like the one, the swoony, fall in love with her, fall in love with him, you know, like the one who walks into the room and everyone, you know, finds him attractive and vulnerable, like all the stuff that romantic comedies do. That, and obviously people of color fall in love every day, all day, because everybody does, right? Just a little bit, because they're human, right? I fell in love every day in high school is a thing that I always say, and it's totally true. And there was just never the space, and we talked about it for years when we were in graduate school and after, like how, because this is our favorite thing, how can we do this? And then, you know, it was only after I got some success, and Dave did too, that we like, and Barbara Marcus, who's the head of Random House Children's Books, is lovely. She's been a mentor to me over the years. She's just been really just fantastic. And then one day I called her up and I said, Barbara, I think we should do this. And it was the best thing because she listened for a long time. She's like, you should write me something up. I'll think about it. And so then I went and David and I wrote something up and we sent it to her. I didn't hear anything for a while. And I was like, oh, she doesn't hate it. She hates it. And then in standard CEO fashion, like 3 weeks later, she sends me an email. She's like, this is a great idea. We should do it. 2 lines. It was 2 lines. I wrote so much. Why? And then she said yes. And, you know, like the thing that I always say is that when we talk about people of color, we talk about them and books and media, it's like vegetables. It's like, you know, the heartbreak stories, it's like police brutality, it's racism, it's how hard immigrant life is. And all of those things are absolutely true. And we need books and media that talk about these things because we still live in a world that's so, you know, terribly unfair in so many ways. But we need other books too, right? Like we do need like the aspirational, sweet, safe, like where you just go, oh, I can be the hero of the story. I can save the world. I slay the dragons. I get the girl. It's hard to be what you can't see, right? It's just difficult. And I know this just from having my little girl, just you can see the way their brains process the world. And so we need more of we need all the stories, right? And right now we have a preponderance of all the sort of vegetable stories and the hard stories, but we need, like, I don't wake up thinking about the struggle every day. It's not the first thing I think about, mostly because I need coffee and my child needs to go to school, right? And that's just, and then that's true, right? We have joy and we have suffering. We write so much about the suffering and we have to, but we need more of the joy too. And I just feel like that's missing. And so I want it not to be missing anymore. So that is why Joy Revolution exists.
And it's a beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing. Just reading the books that you guys have already put out this year, I get chills just thinking about it because they're amazing stories.
They're so good. They're so good.
So good. And they're just stories about people falling in love and, you know, just all the stuff happening around them, but that's the core of it, is the joy. And I see our time is like dwindling away, but I just wanted to say, like, thank you, you know, Nicola, and to David for putting this out into the world, because it is so beautiful. And
Oh,
I'm so proud to be a part of Joy Revolution and any way I can, honestly, and just spread that joy. So thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. And I can speak for all your other authors as well. I know them personally. I've spoken to them all, and they thank you as well.
well, I mean, thank you guys for choosing us, right? Because like we're still new, but I feel like we're doing all right.
Hmm.
I'd say so. I'd say you're doing just fine.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
thank you for joining us. Honestly, I mean, I know we're gonna get cut off at any
yeah.
moment, so we just
Well,
appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
well, thank you guys. I'm sorry it took so long. Life is ridiculous, but we're here now.
Yes. It was so wonderful to meet you, and I'm sure our listeners are gonna just absorb all these gems of wisdom that you dropped, because I know I was. And yeah, thank you so
You're
much
so
for being here.
you're so nice. And then you guys just let me know if you need anything.